Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tapestry. Please. Hi. I love a little crowd participation. I can always rely on you, Avril. All right, join us in worship. You unravel me with a melody. You surround me with a song of deliverance from my enemies till all my fears
From 2 Timothy, verse 1. I thank God, whom I serve with a clear conscience, as my ancestors did, when I constantly remember you in my prayers night and day. Remembering your tears, I long to see you so that I may be filled with joy, clearly recalling your sincere faith that first lived in your grandmother Lois, then in your mother Eunice, and that I am convinced is in you also. Therefore, I remind you to keep ablaze the gift of God that is in you through laying on of my hands. For God has not given us a spirit of fearfulness, but one of power, love, and sound judgment.
I am desperate for your touch, a glimpse of heaven for the glory of your Son. In a moment you can turn a life around, forever to be found in you. I am reaching out to find, there's nothing greater than your love that holds my life. Your grace and mercy that have saved me by your blood, swept away my shame, oh Lord. Your love is like fire that burns for all to see. My only desire to worship at your feet. So let this fire consume Lord, thank you for bringing us all together again this week. I pray that you will be with us as you hear our word and as we take that word and apply it to our lives this coming week. Thank you for all that you do and for your grace and mercy. Amen.
Good morning, everyone. One more time. Good morning. Thank you. Good morning to those of us who are watching online. Welcome to Tapestry. My name is Avril, and we are so excited that you're here, whether in person or online. We have a few announcements today. We're going to start with thank you to Andy, Sarah, and Nelson for leading worship. Yes. It was awesome, like really awesome, as always. And then I'd like to move right on into volunteering because that's the thing we like to hear about the most, right? We are a boutique operation here, and even though we're mighty, even though we're small, we do need the help of others. So if anyone feels like they're being called or are interested in setup, tear down, worship, we definitely could use extra help with kids, anything, please feel free to talk to Brad. He's in the back at the soundboard. For those of you online, if you feel like you're getting ready to go in person, you can email us at I wrote it down here, tapestrysavannah.com. I always get those mixed up. But we would love to hear from you. If this is your first time here, we'd love to get to know you better. So please feel free to fill out a Connect card. You can find them in the back, on the table in the back. And for those online, you can go ahead and email us. If you would like to contribute to Tapestry financially, you can do so using the offering boxes that we have in the back. And if you're watching us online, please go to tapestrysavannah.com, click on donate. They make it very, very easy. Okay, small groups start tonight, so that's very, very excited. We've been on a break for a while, and they start this evening at 4 p.m., so it's really like late afternoon. They're going to be held at Andy and Kate's house, and the address is 307 Willow Road. And we are going to be going through the book, If God is Love, Don't Be a Jerk. And that's by John Pavlovitz. Did I say that right? I think so. It sounds awesome. So also, I just have to personally say I love small groups. It's such a great time to connect with people on a little bit more of an intimate level. If you're nervous about being around other people, we are going to have it out. We're going to be outside. We're going to be social distancing. It's a great time to obviously go through the book that we're going through, but it's also a great time to just be more known, to kind of feel like you're understood, and to really get to know each other better. So I always end up leaving just feeling lighter and happier and just feeling like I really got to connect. So for anyone online, if you feel like you just need to connect, please join us tonight. And I think that's it. So as you can see, Andy Blair is not here today, but we are so excited for our guest speaker, Doug McGarity. So thank you, Doug, for joining us today, and I hope you all have a great rest of your Sunday.
Good morning, everybody. Wow, you almost said that like you were happy to see me. Let me make an adjustment here. Well, some of you look very familiar. It's good to see you again. It's great to be back at Tapestry. I always consider it an honor when Andy asked me to speak here, and it's a privilege to be here with you, those that I've seen before and recognize, and those that maybe we've never met before. I'm happy to be here, and I hope you are too. Once again, though, as Andy always seems to do, he invited me to speak today at Tapestry. I was like, yeah, cool, awesome. And then he made up some excuse to not be here so that he and Kate wouldn't be subjected to what you guys have to sit through and endure. Oh, well, I guess that's the way it goes sometimes. Seriously, Andy and I have been friends for about 15 or 16 years. It's kind of hard for me to even believe it's been that long. I was pastoring a church here in Savannah, and Andy came and visited the church that I was pastoring. And we began to get to know one another and find out that we had some things in common, the way that we were raised, church background and sports and things like that. And we became friends, and we played softball together. And I've said this before, but I want to say it again. I have so much respect for Andy and Kate both, and for their leadership and their vision and their faithfulness here at Tapestry and in Savannah as well. And I hope I said that exactly the way that he told me to. And then it's always fun for me to be at Tapestry because of Brad and Danielle, who I've known. Actually, I think I've known Brad probably even longer than Andy, going back to the old Starbucks days, back at the greatest Starbucks in the history of the world on Montgomery Crossroad in Abercorn. I used to use that place as an office. Met a lot of people, a lot of I think are going to be lifelong friends. But those are great days, so it's always good to see Brad and Danielle. Let's talk about life goals. I can see that really, really got you excited. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up? Who did you want to be like? Do you remember? Kind of go back in your mind. Me, because I know you're curious and you're dying to know. When I was a kid, I wanted to be like Bob Gibson. Is there anybody in this room who even knows who Bob Gibson is? I'm glad you're here today, Brandon. I really am. Bob Gibson was a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals baseball team. And I realize most of you weren't born then. But he was really good. I mean, he was more than really good. He was a first ballot Hall of Famer, one of the greatest pitchers of all time. And when I was a kid, I grew up in a small town in Missouri, and the Cardinals were everything. And Bob Gibson best represented. I wanted to, my whole thing growing up, all I wanted to do when I grew up, for a number of years, I just wanted to pitch for the St. Louis Cardinals, just like Bob Gibson. And not unlike, millions of other boys, in the way that we look at our heroes and our idols. I imitated his wind-up. I imitated his delivery. I even imitated his follow-through. He had a follow-through. He would throw the ball with such force and such, he just put everything. He would literally fall off the pitcher's mound after every pitch. And then, recovery. He's very athletic. I even imitated his icy stare in at the catcher and the batter and the umpire. He was known as one of the fiercest competitors and one of the most intimidating pitchers. And I tried, I knew everything there was to know about him, and I tried to pattern and imitate him. And, this little town that I grew up in Missouri, Versailles. Oh, now that's unbelievable. Okay, anybody from Versailles watching online? There's somebody from Stover here. Oh my gosh. I'm in Savannah, Georgia, and there's somebody from Stover here. This is not in my notes, okay? Oh my. So have you seen, did you ever see the statue they built to me outside the Little League baseball stadium there? You know, there might not be a statue of me anywhere. But as a little kid in Versailles, I was pretty good. And, you know, in your mind, that can, you know, you think, well, I'm pretty good in Versailles. So where could there be any level any tougher than this, you know? But you know what? It is a big world. And I found out I wasn't Bob Gibson. I was pretty good in Versailles as a little kid. And I hope some of you guys at Versailles are watching, but don't feel like you need to comment on any of that. I love my friend. By the way, my best friend from Versailles, Ray Sousley. Today's his birthday. Happy birthday, Ray. So I found out I wasn't Bob Gibson. So that was kind of a letdown. But then I had a backup. I had another person that I want to be like him. His name was Pistol Pete Maravich. Anybody know who Pistol Pete Maravich was? Okay? Pistol Pete Maravich, he was the greatest scorer and the greatest showman in the history of college basketball. He averaged over 44 points a game at LSU. That's a lot, by the way, if you're not into basketball. I mean, that's a record. He averaged over 44 points a game at LSU. He was 6'5", he was skinny, he had long, straight hair, and he wore floppy socks that fell down around his ankles. And I mean, when Pistol Pete Maravich had the basketball, it was like a yo-yo. I mean, it was just like, it was attached. And he could light up an arena. I mean, the whole place, it was like electric. And he would just do incredible things. And I wanted to be just like him. I thought, you know, someday I'm going to be the first white Harlem Globetrotter. Did I mention that he was 6 feet 5 inches tall? So, yeah, I'm still working on that. That really didn't work out the way that I wanted. And you can probably identify, in a sense, whoever your childhood hero was. Chances are, whoever it was that you really looked up to, idolized, worshiped, maybe it was a movie star or a singer or some famous person. And chances are, you may not have reached that level. Does that mean your life's a failure? No. So you may say, well, those are just childish dreams. So you think maybe I was being a bit unrealistic about things. Okay, how about my third choice? I want to be like somebody who walked on water, turned water into wine, healed sick people, predicted that he would raise from the dead, and then pulled it off. That would be Jesus, right? And guess what? I might need to get back to you on that one too, because I'm not quite there yet. So, you think maybe I should lower my expectations? What are we supposed to do? Just keep lowering the bar until we reach a life goal level that's so easy, we can just stumble over a crack in the sidewalk and there we are? A life goal that's so easy even a caveman can do it? That would definitely leave Jesus off the list of candidates, right? But what if you believe? I mean, what if you really believe? What if you, like me, think that following Jesus and being like Jesus, or trying to be like Jesus, is the most important thing and the greatest thing that you can do with your one and only life? What if you think that Jesus really is who he said he is, and you want to follow him, and you want to be like him. I want us to talk about and think about a little bit trying to be like Jesus in a world that isn't. Because let's face it, generally speaking, the direction the world is going and where the attention is mostly focused, I think we can agree the world isn't necessarily trying to be like Jesus. And so if we're going to try to be like Jesus, that's probably going to create a conflict. If you want to be like him, you might be tempted to say, well, I'm afraid that might be setting the bar too high. I don't really think that's a realistic goal. You might be right. Maybe. But in a world that isn't trying to be like Jesus, just trying to be like Jesus can set you apart. Now, I'm not talking about being fake or phony or hypocritical or, self-righteous or trying to pretend to be somebody that you're not, because everybody, in case you're not aware, everybody can see through that. But trying to be like Jesus can set you apart. And I know that it's a struggle. Believe me, I know. I mean, we've all heard the phrase, the struggle is real. And it is. Even for people, like me, like you, like anyone who's sincerely trying to follow Jesus, yes, I struggle. It is a very real thing. Trying to be like Jesus is hard most of the time. There are challenges and obstacles. You can make mistakes. You will make mistakes because we all do. And let me stress that being a Christian or being a Christ follower isn't about how hard you try or how good you are. We're all going to struggle. We're all going to screw up. We're all going to drop the ball. And yes, we're all going to sin. We all have. Even Jesus' closest followers failed famously at times. Some of Jesus' greatest frustrations were with his closest disciples as he observed, what they said and what they did and their attitudes and the way they interacted with one another even. I mean, I think sometimes Jesus felt like a kindergarten teacher. Stop that. I told you not to do that. I mean, it was frustrating for him at times. Paul said it was a daily battle. So don't get discouraged or get the wrong idea. What does it not mean to try to be like Jesus? Well, it doesn't mean to check your sense of humor at the door. Contrary to what some might think, trying to be like Jesus doesn't mean, the more you're like Jesus, the less fun that you have. It doesn't mean don't have fun. I went to a wedding yesterday. In fact, I was the officiant. I performed a wedding ceremony yesterday here in Savannah. And it was a pretty big crowd. It was a great venue. And in the ceremony, there was seriousness. I mean, there were some tears, actually. But there was also celebration. There was joy. There was both. Just fasten your seatbelts here. There was drinking and dancing, both of which would have sent me straight to hell when I was growing up in the religious tradition and in the church environment that I went to. Drinking and dancing, well, no, I'm not going. I'm not going to have anything to do with that. And I love the church that I grew up in. It's a part of my heritage. There's a lot of wonderful things. But, and I don't know what your background is, of course, but let me just explain it to you this way. in the religious tradition that I grew up in the denomination that, my dad was a pastor. So, just whatever, and then times 10. Okay, that was, I said, drinking and dancing, that would send me straight to hell. And Dad would put me on the express lane, And I understood that. There was a clear understanding. But in the church tradition, we didn't believe in premarital sex because it might lead to dancing. All right? If it was fun, it was sin. I mean, I could go on and tell stories, but I won't. But and that's the concept that a lot of people have. And if you just for the record, I don't drink, but I'm like the only person in my family who doesn't. But that doesn't mean that that's the reason that I don't. Has nothing to do with my faith or what Jesus thinks about me. Regardless of what you believe about that, that's fine. But Jesus, well, let me put it to you this way. I think that Jesus and his followers had fun. We don't read much about that kind of interaction, but just think for a minute. 13 guys. One guy, in charge, and they're traveling together. You don't think there was some foolishness, some trash talk, some sarcasm, some joking around, I think they had fun. Jesus performed one of his most famous, his first miracle at a wedding. It was a celebration. It was a party. And what was that first miracle? He turned water into wine. I'm not promoting drinking or alcohol. I'm just saying a lot of times we can get really wrapped up into thinking what it means to follow Jesus. And it's all serious and it's no fun. We try to follow Jesus because following Jesus is setting the bar high. It's not because it's serious, not because we're trying to be perfect. We're not trying to, be someone that we aren't. But the importance of why we want to try to follow Jesus is because following Jesus is setting the bar high. We try because none of us are just going to stumble into being like Jesus. If we didn't try, here's what happens. If we don't try to follow Jesus, we're not going to stay neutral. We're going to start sliding the other way. That's just where our natural drift is. That's our human nature. But here's a couple of tips to help you in your quest to be like Jesus. If you want to try to be like Jesus, number one, make sure that you're following Jesus. Follow his example. Go where Jesus goes or where he would go. Try to imitate the things that Jesus did. And here's like a real good barometer on that. What does that all mean? Well, treat people the way Jesus did. Editorial. This might be where we miss the boat more than anything else. The impression that people have of Christians, that they're serious and stern and mean. Jesus was not mean. Jesus loved everybody. And he was compassionate. He was respectful. Jesus wasn't a jerk. Jesus met all kinds of people. He did do a lot of traveling and going from place to place. And he went places that a lot of the religious people of the day thought, well, he really shouldn't be going there. But he went. And so he met people. He encountered people. And it was because he was kind of a high-profile rabbi, a religious teacher, it surprised a lot of the established religious thinking of the day. He met who? Jesus met, he was traveling in one of those kind of forbidden places, Samaria. He met a woman at the well. Famous story. He met this woman at the well, and there were some barriers there. There was a racial barrier because the Jews and the Samaritans hated each other. The Jews really looked down on people from Samaria. And then there was also kind of a gender barrier. It was a heavily male-dominated culture, and in that setting, really, it was shocking that Jesus would talk to her, and for her to talk to him was almost like a crime. I mean, it was like, don't you know your place? You can't talk to him. Guess what? Jesus talked to her respectfully, like, not like this. Like this, person to person, eye to eye. He treated her with respect. He talked to her about life. He knew she wasn't perfect. I mean, very specifically, he knew she wasn't perfect. And yet he treated her with respect and with compassion. Then there was a guy named Zacchaeus. Now, he was a Jew, so there wasn't that, that nationalistic or racial kind of barrier. But Zacchaeus was a hated Jew because he was a tax collector, which meant that he worked for the Roman government collecting money from fellow Jews, and oftentimes excessively. That's what that was kind of the corrupt job description of the day. You collect everything you're supposed to collect for Rome, and then get some more for yourself. It was corrupt. And the Jews hated him. And Jesus didn't condone what he did at all. But Jesus treated him with respect and talked to him and went to his house for a meal, which blew everyone's mind because Jesus was treating someone with respect that wasn't the norm. And then there's a famous story about a Roman centurion who came to Jesus. And he came to Jesus because his son was sick and dying. And he had heard that, Jesus had healed some people. And he came. And again, the Romans were an oppressive government over the Jews. And so the Jews hated anything having to do with Rome. And a Roman centurion, he was a military man, a military officer. And they were kind of the tip of the spear for the oppressiveness of Rome. So a Roman soldier was really hated by the Jews. And here's Jesus, a Jewish rabbi. And he treated him with respect. In fact, he said he complimented him on his faith in front of everyone. That kind of ticked them off, some of them. The ones that it didn't tick off, even the people even the ones closest to Jesus, it was kind of a head scratcher. Wow, he complimented that guy on his faith? Jesus loved everyone, and he was compassionate and respectful to everyone. So make sure that you're following Jesus. If you're going to try to be like Jesus, try to treat people the way that he did. And make sure that you don't settle for a cheap counterfeit Jesus. Be careful who you listen to. If someone tells you or teaches that if you follow Jesus, you'll always be blessed financially, and you'll never be sick, and you'll never struggle with life issues like everybody else, All those things, if you follow Jesus and you believe just right and you have the right kind of faith, all those problems will just go away. Or if someone tries to tell you or teaches that Jesus doesn't love people who vote a certain way, or he doesn't love people who don't love him, or he doesn't love people who don't worship him, that's a counterfeit Jesus. Newsflash. Jesus didn't die so that we could be rich. Jesus didn't die so that we'd never have problems like everyone else. Bigger newsflash. Jesus didn't die for Democrats. And he didn't die for Republicans. Jesus didn't die for Americans. Jesus died for people. You can put whatever kind of tag you want on it. But he died for people. All of them. Left, right, black, white, rich, poor, everything in between. Jesus died for people, all of them, all of us, you and me. He died for us. Jesus died for everyone. All people. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believes in him would not perish but have everlasting life. Jesus died for people, the ones all around the world and the ones across the street and the ones on the other side of town, the ones who look different, the ones who act different, the ones who vote different, the ones that I don't like, and the ones that you don't like, and the ones that we don't approve of. He loves them all. He died for them all. I want to read something to you that Jesus said. Now, he said a lot of things, of course, but I want us to read what he said in Matthew chapter 5, verses 43 through 48. For two reasons. Number one, what Jesus said here is part of it. It's from what most experts agree is the greatest sermon ever preached, the Sermon on the Mount. And number two, what Jesus says here, this is consistent with what Jesus himself said was the most important thing for us to do in Matthew chapter 22, verses 37 through 39. They came to Jesus and they were trying to trick him, but they said, Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? And what did he say? He said, the greatest commandment is love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. And the second one is just like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. So what Jesus said was, love God, love your neighbor as yourself. Love God and love people. So let's see what Jesus said. And again, this is from the greatest sermon ever in Matthew chapter 5, beginning with verse 43. Jesus says, you have heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies. Pray for those who persecute you. In that way you will be acting as true children of your Father in heaven. For he gives his sunlight to both the evil and the good, and he sends rain on the just and the unjust alike. If you love only those who love you, what reward is there for that? Even corrupt tax collectors do that much. If you are kind only to your friends, how are you different from anyone else? Even pagans do that. But you are to be perfect, even as your Father in heaven is perfect. Now, aren't you thankful for grace? I am. I'm thankful that even though Jesus said you are to be perfect, He doesn't require us to be perfect in this life, anyways. He says we are to be perfect, and someday we will be. Bible says, that someday we will see him and we will be like him, for we shall see him as he is. That's off in the future. Until then, we're kind of on this journey. He says you are to be perfect. He doesn't require us to be perfect. He knows we're going to fail. He knows we're going to fall short. He knows we're going to make mistakes. He knows that we're going to sin. He knows that we're going to struggle. Jesus knows that we are all imperfect people on an imperfect journey towards a perfect God. That's where we are. And we're probably all at different points in the journey. Maybe you're just getting started. Maybe you've been in this journey for a long time. Maybe you're struggling with some things maybe things that this person over here is not struggling with. But we all struggle with something. And we're all on this journey. We're imperfect people on an imperfect journey towards a perfect God. And he knows that we all struggle. And sometimes I think it does us good to admit that. Sometimes it helps the people around us when we admit that. So try to be like Jesus by doing this. Number one, try to love your enemies. Love everyone, including your enemies. But Jesus said, love your enemies. Well, that really rocked their boat and maybe yours. And one of the questions is, who is this? Who are your enemies? Well, let's take a look at that. Who are your enemies that you're supposed to love? People who don't like you. That hard for any of you? When you know somebody doesn't like you, what's your automatic, natural reflex, gut level response to that? You don't like me? Well, Jesus says, love those people. Who are your enemies? People who don't like you. People who do things that hurt you. Or someone you love. People who say things that hurt you. People who post things on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter that hurt you. Dallas Cowboys fans. Or Alabama fans, maybe. Who are the Braves playing in the playoffs? Dodgers fans. Some people on Facebook saying, Dodger fans saying some bad things about the Braves. People who vote different than you. People who worship different than you. People who don't love Jesus. People who don't love Jesus. Is that an excuse to hate them or to be mean to them? It's not what Jesus would say. The key word is people. People. Love everyone. Try to love your enemies. It's going to be a challenge for some of us. I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands. But it's a challenge to love people who are different and who kind of accentuate the differentness. People who don't like us, people who are our enemies, people who are different. And then try to pray for your enemies. This is not about being religious. It's not about being pious or churchy or self-righteous. Let me tell you something. And I know this. I've tried this. And I found it to be true. It is hard to hate someone that you're praying for. Especially when you actually say their name in your prayer. Lord, I know he's a jerk, but help Brandon. Help Susie. Just bless her life today. Help her to sense your love and that you care for her. When you call somebody's name in prayer, it's hard to hate them. When you pray for someone, an enemy, someone you don't like, guess what? You may not see a difference in them. The difference is in you. When we pray for our enemies, something happens to you. Something good. And even if you're not thinking, oh, I'm trying to be like Jesus, when you pray for your enemies, we become a little bit more like Jesus, even if we don't realize it. It can begin to change our heart. So love your enemies and pray for your enemies. And number 3, try to be kind to your enemies. We could use a whole lot more of this in our world today. Just don't be a jerk. If you're gonna tell people that you're a Christian, if you're gonna tell people that you're a Christ follower, don't be a jerk. There are other words, kind of like non-Christian words that you could substitute for the word jerk. Just try to be nice. Can I confess something to you just right now, right here in front of God and everybody? Sometimes I don't want to love people. I'm standing up here telling you all this stuff. I just need to confess. What I'm telling you is true, and I believe it. That doesn't mean that I don't struggle with it. It's hard for me. Sometimes I don't want to love people. Sometimes I don't want to pray for them. And I don't just mean generally. I mean specific people, someone in particular. I don't want to love that person. I don't want to pray for them. And I think I have pretty good reasons for not wanting to do that. I think I've got really good reasons for not loving that person. Sometimes I don't want to just use Christian words when I'm talking about them. And then God finds a way to remind me of how unlovable I have been. God finds a way to whisper in my ear and remind me of all the reasons that he had to not love me. But he did. Anyway, he loved me anyway. And he loved you anyway. He loved me and he died for me. The magnitude of that love overwhelms me. It boggles my mind. It humiliates me. It inspires me. It compels me. It propels me to love more and to be more loving. And when you weren't very lovable, he loved you too. At your worst, Jesus saw you and knew you and understood you and knew all about your failures and your struggles and the way you talked back to your parents. I mean, he knew everything. And he loved you too. And he died for you too. So if it's not easy, this stuff that I'm talking about, if you're like, oh man, if it's not easy, and it won't be, then remember what Jesus said. He said, love them. And B, remember what Jesus did. He died for them. A, remember what Jesus said. B, remember what Jesus did. And then C, just try again. Just because you failed, just because it's hard, just because you struggled, don't give up. Just try again. Repeat steps A, B, and C. Keep trying. Keep trying to be like Jesus, even in a world that isn't. Because you know what? That's what we were created for. That's what you were created for. That's what God gave you your one and only life for, to be more loving, to be more like him. It's how we were created to be. And even when you struggle, if you keep trying, he will help you. Let me pray for you. Lord, thank you for this time together. And I thank you for each one of us who is here. Whatever our backgrounds, whatever our similarities and differences, our likes and dislikes, whatever our experiences have been, thank you for loving us. Thank you for creating us in your image. And Lord, you know all about our struggles. You know all about our imperfections. And yet you unceasingly, stubbornly love us. How incredible is that? Lord, help us to see you. Help us to really see you the way that you are. And I pray, Lord, that you'll inspire us with your passion and your love. As we come to understand how much you love us, inspire us to try to be more like you. Just to do our best, and then to trust you for grace and strength and power. Lord, let your greatest blessings be upon us as we leave. And as we leave this place and as we live our lives, I pray that we'll try just enough with your help that people will see Jesus in us, that people will see a difference in us, and that your imprint will grow in our lives and in the lives of people around us. And we'll thank you and we praise you for all of these things in your name, Lord. Amen. God bless you all. Hope to see you again. Have a great rest of the week.